What's going on, everybody? This is the Blockchain Backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we're going to be talking about the XRP price chart. Of course, we're going to have to talk about Bitcoin, and we'll talk about the altcoin market coming off of a weekend with mass liquidations, which appears to be the biggest liquidation event in the history of the cryptocurrency market. As reported there by CoinGlass, it was over $2 billion that happened in a 24-hour period, which of course we saw even $1 billion a day before. However, the co-founder and CEO of Bybit believes it was significantly more than that, and they actually saw more than $2 billion just on their exchange alone. In which he states, I'm afraid that today, real total liquidation is a lot more than $2 billion. By my estimation, it should be at least around $8 to $10 billion. For information, Bybit 24-hour liquidation alone was $2.1 billion, which over there on CoinGlass, it was reporting $2.1 billion for the whole market. But he's saying that just on our exchange, it was 2.1. And as you can see in the below screenshot, Bybit 24-hour liquidations recorded on CoinGlass was around $333 million. So CoinGlass was only reporting 333 million for Bybit, whereas they're telling us, no, it was over 2 billion just here alone. However, this is not all the liquidations. We have API limitation on how much feeds are pushed out per second. And from my observation, other exchanges also practice the same to limit liquidation data. Moving forward, Bybit will start to push all liquidation data. We believe in transparency. So it's believed that this was the biggest liquidation event, even with what we saw with just the $2 billion. I would go ahead and make it that way, but it's actually believed to be closer to $8 to $10 billion, which is typically what we see on marks of bottoms when you get something of extremes. This was bigger than C19, FTX, anything like that. And well, we saw the reaction come out of the market, especially over here on the XRP price chart, of exactly what we were looking for. You know, I've described this as something called a violent back test. And I don't think that there's really another term that I can come up with in any way to explain it in that manner, except for sheer violence. And that's how I've always described it. And if you live through it, if you survive through that, you got to kind of feel it and experience it, what violent backtest feels like. It is sheer insanity. It's crazy. But the good news is that we saw massive volumes come out of there, and you even saw an over $1 wick recovery from bottom to peak of the wick there yesterday, and we did close the day out green. The volume, of course, in there was massive on the daily volume. It's signatures of what it's like at a peak, at a bottom. We saw that on smaller time frames as well, that extreme selling volume followed by extreme buy volume right afterwards. So it's exactly what you would look for in that environment. That's exactly how C19 bottom happened. And it was marked with a very similar event that happened like this. So I'm very optimistic moving forward that we're going to see a recovery here in XRP. I think we'll see a recovery in the whole market, but I think the whole market is far more confusing and complicated. And I'm still working on my running thesis with that. And I'm going to put out a video with that later this week. But I think it's going to have to kind of reflect back on ideas that were brought up back in that video on November 30th of 2023, back in here at the euphoria moment when the altcoin market and Bitcoin price chart retrace, and what was discussed in here with this type of discussion of what can happen in these types of ranges in here, where you come back to test the preliminary support back to the top, right? And it turns this into a crash, retrace, reaccumulation. And that's what we just saw happen over here in Ethereum, because Ethereum is not alone in not being able to set a new low. And this is very similar to what happened during C19 when it came to Bitcoin in a more drawn out form, but that is how it ended, right? The lows being able to hold on the biggest massive liquidation event that we've seen in the cryptocurrency market at that time. So still putting this thesis together in here on the rest of the market, as it's unquestionably a very complicated market. Because if you go through the top 50 cryptocurrencies by market cap over here on CoinMarketCap, how many of those coins do you think are above the 2021 high? Well, I have that answer for you. That answer is 4 from the top 50. 1 being Bitcoin, 2 being Leo, which is Bitfinex's token. So I don't know. It's the only exchange that this is available on. Do you count that one? If we don't count this one, it puts you at 3, but we'll say okay. There's zero chance any Americans would own this. But you got Bitcoin, Leo, Tron, which isn't above 2018. And then you have XRP, which as well is not above 2018. The market cap is still above the all-time high from 2018, but we're still waiting on the price. Otherwise, from the top 50, if they were around in 2021, that's it. So it's a super complicated market to see that there's a couple of them that are up in here, just a couple, and then a lot of stuff still just hanging out down here. And so I brought that up in yesterday's video of like, it's the year of XRP holders, because in most markets, this has been the story. And so there's a lot of gratitude in there that that's not the case this time around. It's one of the very, very few that are sitting up in here and holding up so well. So I'll be putting things together for the altcoin market throughout the week and into next week. But I think with XRP, I think I have a clear view over here of what's happening with XRP, and that was our violent back test. That's the mass liquidation event. We got the massive recovery coming out of there. I said I thought that this would be short-lived. Boom, it was short-lived. We got a whole dollar candle yesterday. The thing is, we can typically just kind of settle in here and waddle in here for a little while before being able to shoot our way up in here. And these can take many forms. It can totally just go like that. But my expectations are that it's probably more along the lines of like that before inevitably being able to work its way out. You know, this stems back to a lot what we were talking about back in December, what it looked like of what we were accumulating in this range to break up out of this range. And then eventually the violent backtest comes. You know, my thoughts were we would go higher before the violent backtest would show itself up. Either way, just structurally, right? These are the phases we're looking for. That's now the phase that we've gotten. It's kind of like being somewhere right here, right now, right? If you caught my video yesterday, I also brought in the concepts of what happened there with Litecoin when it was really very similar to this back in 2017. There's the violent backtest. It goes from like $90 all the way down to $30. The recovery comes and it does a 4.236 extension of that range. The idea is the same here. That's what we also saw from this particular range, is that you went for a 4.236 extension. This one for a 4.236 extension. Again, it's that $8, $9, $10 area. Kind of see that as well. There you go. That's what you end up getting, right? That also is the 4.236 extension of the market cap for XRP. As it stands today, if there was no inflation, no escrow unlocks, it would be $9.16. It's likely we will see at least another escrow unlock between now and then. So it still has confluence for that price area right in there. And structurally, that's what something like this would hopefully end up doing. But the absolute most important thing to see coming out of the violent backtest is to see a quick recovery happen in there, because it's what we always end up seeing if that's what it is, right? You don't want to see something like this happen and then just accepts prices down there and it just stays down there, right? That's a different story. This just becomes the violent backtest that's very short-lived in here. Then it can just be waddling around in here for quite a while before things get going. And to kind of give you an idea on timing of how much time you spent in there in that range, it was about similar to what the previous range was. However, it would indicate that you're probably closer to about halfway done with the range as it stands right now. That was really kind of on par for when it liquidated last time. Right, there was the big liquidation that came in right here on this candle right here. It kind of puts you at about there, right? So you're about over halfway done with the range at this point if you moved at a similar velocity as that. And it would still indicate that at some point in February, we're trying to fight our way out of those highs again. Here's another example of violent backtest V bottoms that happened for something like Bitcoin back in 2017. Bull flag. Notice it comes below all of them over in here and then just works its way up very quickly. So I don't think there's really like a one-size-fits-all formula on how that can end up happening in there. This was the Dow Jones, just really a lot of stair-stepping before it was able to get out. And in Bitcoin circumstance over here, story is the same, stair-stepping its way up, and then was back at the highs in a matter of no time. But I do also think there's a part of it that kind of having to have psychological preparations of what it can be like if we do spend a couple of weeks around here just waddling in here, that this all just happened super fast, right? This all happened within the last like 48 to 72 hours. So emotions are still real all over the place on what happened in there. And what hasn't come to the surface yet is that there was an extreme amount of capitulation. I guarantee it, super guarantee it, a tremendous amount of people sold not just at the bottom on this candle, but the bottom of every candle on every chart throughout the crypto market. And then the market ripped back upwards and left them behind. And there wasn't enough time to think. There wasn't time enough for emotions to change and for reactions to change. And then they had to buy back in a little bit higher. And so every time this thing waddles around in here, there is going to be a lot of people who are just completely emotionally unstable because the frustration of selling at the lows, they had to buy back in. So they already deteriorated their portfolio maybe by 25 to 30% in a moment like that. The people who held through it, well, you went down and then you bounced back up and you're kind of really no different than you were just a few days ago. But the people who capitulated at the bottom, they realized the loss. So while price is back here and if they've bought back in here, they realize that real loss. So they don't feel that same, oh, okay, cool, it came back, that's all right. There's the, oh no, I sold at the bottom and I bought back in. And there's that still negative feeling that never went away, that it recovered and it came back. It still is in there, and that emotion still sits in there that I took that loss. And so that hasn't surfaced to the market yet. And so after moments like these, what we tend to see is a lot of negative discussions of crashing and we're going to go lower, and people wanting to make up for that. And there'll be a lot of screaming that we're going to crash and all that type of stuff that comes to Twitter. And that comes in the coming weeks after events like this. And it always does. And so a lot of that exists right now that hasn't surfaced yet in regards to market sentiment. So just kind of being prepared for that type of market sentiment will likely come to surface. There's just zero chance we go through an event like that and there wasn't a tremendous amount of bottom selling. It just always happens. And then when you have a violent recovery like that, where it shoots up a whole dollar, or in the circumstances of a lot of these coins, they shoot right back up. You just have to put yourself in the psychology of a lot of people that, right, if you sell the low and then price shoots back up and then you buy back in, well, you just took that loss and you didn't get to feel that movement of, things are okay. You came back right here. So you need prices to do that in order for you to be able to feel that, because then if it goes down like that, well, then it's like you just took 2 losses in a row. You know what I'm saying? So that sentiment likely will surface here in the coming weeks. But the thing with Bitcoin when it comes to this, still just the most complicated range that we've seen in quite some time. Things that we were talking about last week was just whether or not, we were in a moment like this when we were in here. The thing that was missing that we also talked about was just how you could go take out these lows and then shift your way back up and then pull down. But we got so high, it just didn't seem like that was still possible in here, right? So what happened in the market back in 2021 when that finally came out in there? Well, then the market started actually being able to rip once you got in here. So now it's going to be watching, okay, Bitcoin, are you going to do that now? Does that have confluence with these things we've been discussing in here? And that's how it finally is able to get its way out. We'll see. But this is certainly a mega complicated range. But I could still make the argument on there that that's really all we saw happen in here for Bitcoin. That it was this moment that then the dynamic of the market completely changed in 2021 from being about Bitcoin to then being about the rest of the market. It's very possible that's still the circumstance happening right here. So we'll give this a few days of price action to be able to play itself out, see if we can go ahead and get a move in here, and then if we can see a couple of leaders start to show up in the rest of the market as we witnessed back in this range. On a side note though, it is once again fascinating to see it though, that you have that inverse relationship happening with gold. My thoughts are gold's been flashing that signal that we are distributing for Bitcoin. But what do you know? Gold breaks out and it just, boom, obliterates. So anybody comparing Bitcoin to gold, they're just not related to each other in the least bit. So gold will likely have to chill out before we see things completely rampage in here. However, structurally, things look really appropriate here, at least for the XRP price chart. It's not like we're blindsided by the fact that a violent backtest came. For me personally, just thought it would probably come from a little bit of a higher place, but not fooled to think that one wasn't coming. What we do get, though, by the exact size of the move that we did see, is the actual extension still providing that confluence of the price areas that we've continued to talk about, $8, $9, $10, $11, not the $20, $30, $50, $100 that you see all over Twitter. It still points to that 8, 9, 10, 11. So it's likely that it's a lot of stair stepping that happens in here, but big deep breath, got the reaction that you'd be looking for in here. If it's your first time going through the violence, if you got a better word for it than that, that is appropriate. And PG, I'm more than happy to hear it. But that's how I describe that event. Sheer, utter violence. But fortunately, full recovery happened in there. So, all right, we'll check in on this again later. And otherwise, I'll see you guys tomorrow in Markets in the Morning. So that'll be it for this one, guys. You can check out the newsletter over here at blockchainbacker.substack.com. Most recent one has a 25-minute audio recording in there. I auto record all of these. And of course, you get access to all the past ones as well if you sign up over here If you'd like to learn how to set up your own charts and indicators, you can do that over here at bcbacker.com with over 40 videos and 11 hours of content teaching you how to set up your own charts and indicators within TradingView and CoinTrader Pro. There are links in the descriptions of each of my videos in the newsletter at blockchainbacker.substack.com and to bcbacker.com. Otherwise, big deep breath, nice bounce there that happened yesterday, and we actually closed the day green. So, all right, that's going to be it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you could be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor, but if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.